Okay, well, welcome everyone. This is my Crypto Corner live stream edition. I am live today with one of the key developers and one of the main people behind ZENcash, Rolf Versluis. Is that how I got it right? Oh, great. It is a tongue twister, I must say. It is a tongue twister. Well, welcome to this live chat. We're going to be talking about ZENcash, of course, just general chat. We're going to talk about privacy coins because ZENcash is a privacy coin. And for those of you who are new to this space and are not yet aware about privacy coins, what exactly do they do? Why are they any different? You know, stuff like that. We're going to try and cover these topics. So welcome, Rolf. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, OJ. It's great to be here.
And also thanks for agreeing to answer all of my questions directly. There's no limits. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. And you guys who are watching live, feel free to post your questions. I will be checking the comments every now and then to see if there's anything that we need to ask. So let's get started. First, Rolf, I'm going to ask you a little bit about yourself. Tell us, how did you get started in the crypto space in the first place? What were you doing before that?
Sure. I got it started in the crypto space about 3 years ago through mining. And before that, I owned an IT company. So I owned a company that put in data networks, did data network security at good sized places. And I had a lot of Cisco phones. And before that, I worked for Cisco Systems in the semiconductor industry. And I started out using my electrical engineering degree as an officer in the Navy on a submarine. So I went through and got a nuclear power degree and was underwater for 4 years out in the Pacific Ocean. And not a bad way to start out, but I wanted a little bit newer technology than run a nuclear propulsion plant. So I stepped into semiconductors and then into information technology and then into cryptocurrency and started out by mining. So I do a lot of mining. And through mining, I got involved and found out about ZCash. I'm a big proponent of privacy and having technology that enables privacy. I think people should be able to control their information and how it's spread through the world. And so I was very excited when ZCash was launched. I was very excited when ZClassic was launched. I was mining both of those. And then I talked with Rob Viglione, who's my co-founder with ZENcash, and we talked about taking some best practices from some other cryptocurrencies and doing a chain split off ZClassic and launching a new cryptocurrency. And we did that just about 1 year ago, and it's called ZENcash.
Yes, I actually remember it because as a trader, I was already trading ZClassic, and at some point it was announced that it will be forking into ZENcash. So that was a good trade for me. Now, many people are not really aware about privacy coins and why do we need privacy coins. They actually think, a lot of people think that Bitcoin is quite private, quite anonymous. You know, there's always in the news, in the media, there's always these reports about Bitcoin being preferred by terrorists and people who do illegal stuff online, darknet, all of these stories. Now, experienced people, we know that this is not really the case. We know that a lot of the transactions, all of the transactions of Bitcoin are on the public ledger, they're in the public domain. A lot of them can be traced because there are ways for people to find out what is your wallet address. There are ways to trace your transactions in and out and even further down the chain. So let's talk about the importance of privacy coins. Why did you decide to focus on that particular aspect?
Sure. And in our society, we've gotten used to being not private about many things today. And that's really not the way it's been for many people's lives. And I equate it very simply. Privacy enables freedom. If you have the ability to do things privately, then you don't have to be worried about what your neighbors think. You know, maybe you pull the blinds down when you want to do things in your bedroom that are private. You don't have to worry about what the government thinks. You don't have to worry about what the banks think. You don't have to worry about what your employer thinks. I bet some people that posted or had pictures taken of them and put on social media when they go to get their first job wish they had a little bit more privacy in their lives. So privacy enables freedom. And so that's why I think privacy is always going to be important. And I saw a way that I could directly help people to regain privacy in their lives.
Yes, and this is why you decided to focus your project on the privacy. I know that ZENcash, in fact, has a few other features other than the privacy. That is not the only feature. We're going to be talking about this a little more later. Now, let's first explain how did ZENcash started. It was a fork from Z Classic. Why? And Z Classic is a fork of ZENcash. So my question would be first, why did you not fork straight from ZENcash, but from Z Classic?
That's a great question. So one of the things as people that go through and launch cryptocurrencies have to deal with is the first hurdle is to get people to care that you even exist. Once you get past that point where people care that you even exist, then you can do all sorts of other things. So by doing a chain split, it was uncommon at the time, but basically everybody who owns Z Classic also got ZENcash. Now we saw that later on last year with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. People care about Bitcoin Cash, Bcash, whatever you want to call it, because they have some. So by doing a chain split off in the Z Classic community was actually bigger, as far as I could tell, than the ZENcash community. So instead of starting a whole new fork from a Genesis block with zero community, we started a chain split with a very active community. And then we did a few other things to bring in other interested community members as well, so we could quickly and rapidly grow our community. Having a engaged and interested and participating community, I think, is one of the most important things for cryptocurrency to be successful.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. Z Classic had actually a very active and quite a big community at the time. They still do. So this was quite a good decision, actually. Was it part of the reason, the fact that Z Classic eliminated the 20% founders reward from ZENcash? Was that another reason why I decided to fork from there rather than from ZENcash directly?
Well, Z Classic is a very straightforward cryptocurrency proposition. They do exactly everything that ZENcash does without the founders reward. So you're right. So ZENcash, 20% of the mining reward is paid to the ZENcash founders, which is part of how they pay for their development. And they have outstanding developers, and they've developed really great technology with the zero knowledge proofs and the shielded transactions. So it's definitely worthwhile. So that's the only difference with Z Classic. With ZENcash, we actually took a page from Dash, this book, and put back in a founder's reward. So just like Dash has 10% of the Coinbase reward that goes to pay for marketing and development and partnerships, ZENcash has the same thing. We started out, and right now we have 8.5% of the mining reward gets paid to the treasury, and our nonprofit foundation, the Zen Blockchain Foundation, spends all that treasury in order to build out the white paper. So to build out our vision, to develop partnerships, to do things like get us on the Ledger wallet and stuff like that. So that was, it was mostly about the community decision. And then we did something else to enable even more community members other than miners and the existing Z Classic and the privacy focused people.
Okay, so yeah, I wasn't aware of that, actually. That is quite interesting. And I know that you've incorporated elements from different projects, like the masternode idea from Dash you've taken on board. So let's talk about the governance of ZENcash and explain to me how exactly does it work, because it is it's kind of a hybrid between different, you've borrowed ideas and you've kind of changed them a little bit, made them your own.
It is. You're exactly right. We have borrowed ideas, and we're still in the development of the governance and treasury. We have a plan, and we're working through the plan. I think it'll probably take 2 to 3 years to work through the plan completely, but we're making active progress on it. So yes, the first part is the treasury. So 8.5% of each block gets directed to the treasury to get spent. Now, as we move forward, that's going to be done through a community governance system, through a voting methodology. And we actually have not determined the voting methodology that we're going to use. One of the things that we were able to do with that treasury fund was to have a partnership with IOHK. IOHK is an outstanding research organization, and so they have some PhDs that did an analysis of the Dash governance system and wrote a paper on that at IOHK's website. And then they created a Ethereum Classic Treasury model, and we are working with them in partnership for them to create the Treasury model for ZENcash. And one of the interesting things that they can do with the Treasury model from ZENcash, and I actually expect the research paper to be published next week. So we've been working with them for about 6 months. But one of the interesting things that's going to be able to happen in the Treasury governance and voting model is, because we have shielded transactions, in addition to transparent transactions, we have the ability for people to vote privately. So there's going to be secret ballot voting. People are going to do proposals, then do secret ballot voting. And then the proposals will, at the end of the voting period, we'll open it up and see what the results were. So you don't see what people are voting during the voting process, which is the way it is with some other cryptocurrencies out there. Okay, and
tell me again, you have a bit of a difference between the way your masternodes are being run to what Dash has, because the masternode idea came from Dash, but you're talking about secure nodes or supernodes, I think you call them as well.
Right.
So let's elaborate a little bit.
Well, I really like what Dash did with the masternode idea. That the two main things of having part of the mining reward directed towards the people that are running the masternode, so 45% gets to the, and then 10% for the treasury. It's really enabled them to have ongoing governance as well as ongoing payment. Bootstrapping. They have funds every month that they can spend on stuff. We decided to do it a little bit differently. So we started with secure nodes. For a couple different reasons. First off, we didn't want to put nodes together with voting so tightly. So we said, well, it's very important to have many nodes up and running. If you want to use a wallet and send some transactions with ZENcash, your wallet needs to connect to a node on the network, and that node needs to be up and running. So we said, well, since we want those nodes to be up, running, and secure, and then have a few other features like SSL certificates, so everything's encrypted, then we should just pay for people to run nodes. So that's what secure nodes are. So 3.5% of the mining reward is distributed to all the people who operate secure nodes and maintain them within compliance. So we have more than 10,000 people now that are operating secure nodes. And instead of like Dash, which you require 1,000 Dash to operate a masternode, you only require 42 ZENcash to run a secure node. So you put a little bit of skin in the game, 42 ZENcash. Last summer, ZENcash was around $3, and that's when a lot of people were getting geared up for the secure nodes. And hosted on a server that can do things, and it gets paid out pretty well. That does two things for us, actually. It gets us a whole bunch of nodes, which gives us reliability in case there's a denial of service or some other attack against the ZENcash system. It also brings in people who don't have a lot of money, like big investors or traders.
Correct, yes.
Or miners, because there's a lot of parts of the world where you just can't do mining because electricity is too expensive. But there's a bunch of IT people, system administrators. They're not developers, but they're really good at running servers. So system administrators could participate in cryptocurrency by being secure node operators, because they didn't have to have too much ZENcash to do it. They just had to have servers with public IP addresses and the ability to build them and do certificates. So we gained, in addition to miners and investors and people invested in privacy, a whole bunch of information technology system administrators that are part of the ZENcash community. And if you're trying to grow your coin and get people to use it, use difficult things like wallets and things like that, you want your company IT guy to be familiar with ZENcash. So that's a whole secret plan that we had to get a whole new element of technical people involved in cryptocurrency. And then furthermore, we are focused so much on internationalization. You look at our website, we set it up, we had an outstanding web development team. It is translated to so many different languages. Our blog server, it has blogs in all sorts of different languages. We do translations, and we try to get engaged in just about every country in the world. If we don't have your language or your native language on our website, please reach out to us. We'll pay for people to translate the website and keep it up to date. In fact, that's another way that we're growing our community. So the treasury funding, all the money that comes in gets turned around and spent. We spend all that 8.5% onto projects, to bounties, to getting onto exchanges and partnering with folks. You'll see we're on the Ledger hardware wallet. We have other hardware wallets that we're working with. And then through just the people that are on our team that do different elements. So I say that we're like a small business. We're a full stack business. Not only do we have developers, we have an intellectual property attorney. We have an accountant that's going through and creating reports on all the spending that we've done. We have marketing people. We have business development people and then we have ambassadors that go to meetups all over the world to promote and show people how to use ZENcash. So we use those treasury funds and get them back out in the community. And one of the really important things to do with a cryptocurrency is to develop a cryptocurrency ecosystem, which is you pay people in ZENcash and then encourage them and show them how to turn around and pay it to other people.
Okay, well, that's great. At the moment, we're actually looking at the website. I'm going through the website because this is what we were talking about. And this is the team. You do have actually quite a large team, but you have been around already for a year. I know that a lot of the cryptocurrencies projects, when they start, they usually start with a couple of people, a great idea, a couple of good programmers doing most of the work. It's great to see that you've managed to grow such a large team already. And speaking of people and teams and people wanting to get involved, I want to go to a question here from Jaya. Zen is awesome. Can we expand on the new platform vision? Can I write smart? I can't really read. It's okay. Bad English, but can I write smart contracts? What programming language can I use?
So I do. So we announced something new that we are proposing and are in the middle of putting in place. So in addition to secure nodes, which secure the system and keep against attack and keep it up and running, we announced supernodes. Supernodes are kind of more like master nodes. So you can think of supernodes as master nodes. They do a few different functions on the network. So we announced that we're going to make a change in the way that we pay out. Right now, 12% of the mining reward is taken to pay for treasury and secure nodes. When we do a mandatory upgrade at the end of June or beginning of July, miners are going to get 70% of the reward. Secure nodes are going to get 10% instead of 3.5. Super nodes are going to get 10%. And the treasury is going to get 10%. So nice round numbers. Supernodes are going to run side chains, and side chains enable a whole bunch of different things. Now, if you look at Dash masternodes, they run side chains to keep track of which masternodes are up and running and who gets paid next. So we could do something similar. So one of the things that we're going to do with the side chains is keep track of all the secure nodes and super nodes and determine how they get paid and send the payment out to them. But side chains are also set up to do additional things. So the treasury research with IOHK that we talked about, we have the option of implementing all the voting and governance on the main blockchain, but it would probably be better to not grow the main blockchain size too much with all that voting and instead do it on side chains. So that's one of the things that we're looking at doing on side chains. And as we're doing side chains, then we have the ability to do other functions as well. So we could use what we call a quick and easy one would be well, nothing's easy, but a straightforward one in concept would be Zen Grid. And this is a distributed computational platform. So say you had a whole bunch of images and you wanted to create thumbnails of them. It takes a lot of work on a computer. And you could go to Amazon and pay for part-time computation. That's what ZenGrid's going to be too. So say you didn't want to have Amazon take a look at all those pictures and thumbnails, and instead you wanted to do it in a more distributed or private fashion, you'd be able to do a job with all the secure nodes to make thumbnails out of all those pictures. And that would be an additional way for secure node and super node operators to gain income. So that's just an idea. And first we'll do it for all internal applications. And then as we progress, this is something that's going to take a while to develop.
Yeah, this is kind of a long-term projection.
Right. But it's good to have long-term plans because we're planning on being around for a while.
That's important for many people, especially those who are kind of holders and investors. You know, they want to know where is the project going from? And it was one of my questions, you know, what's happening over the next 5 years, let's say.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have updates, live stream updates every 2 weeks because we have so many things that happen every 2 weeks. We like to share it with our community. I was reading last night the book Sapiens, and there was a good example in there of different people that build. Say you want to build a really tall building. Well, up to the first 5 stories, it doesn't matter whether you build with bricks and mud or wood. But above 5 stories, it matters. And the people that build with steel buildings and concrete are going to go a lot higher. So I feel that by structuring our organization into like a small business with a distribution of responsibilities and having project management and tracking projects and things like that, we're structured to grow quickly and for a long time. So we have multiple parallel developers and development teams running. We do a lot of things in parallel, and that's why we get a lot of things done quickly. So longer term, we're going to, first off, build out everything that we talked about in the initial white paper. And so it's not just public and private transactions. One of the really neat things, actually, let me take a quick side note, because a lot of people don't understand how the private transactions work in ZCash or ZClassic or ZENcash. I noticed.
Yeah, you know what, I was going to ask you to go back to that. I wanted to find out a bit more about the ZK snark, because that's I've already recorded a video where I'm explaining the basics of privacy coins and just the top ones, and you know, mentioning a little bit about each one. But I haven't posted that yet. So let's talk a little bit about that aspect.
Yeah. Now, when you think of privacy coins, of course, you think of Monero. Monero's done a great job in the privacy space, and they have a great community, and they have a technology that is private by default, which is good, because when you use Monero, you know that it's going to be a private transaction. It makes it harder for Monero to get integrated into different services, so that's more of a long-term thing. But when it gets integrated, it works really well. With the folks that designed ZCash, so we're going to do a couple things. We're going to have transparent transactions, which are just like Bitcoin transactions, which are, just like you said earlier, pseudo-anonymous. You can see on the blockchain what address sent, what address received, and how much funds were sent. That enables very rapid integration into the regular cryptocurrency ecosystem, gets you onto exchanges faster, gets you onto hardware wallets, and other things like that faster. And then there's a second type of transaction. Like you said, it's the zero knowledge proof transaction, which we just call the shielded transaction. And if you do a shielded transaction from a shielded address to a shielded address, it gets recorded on the blockchain, but nobody can see who sent it, who received it, or how much. And you can take funds from a transparent address and send it to a shielded address, and send it from a shielded address to a transparent address. So let me give an example of something that I just did. I've been mining ZenCash for a while, and I have it in my Swing wallet, which is a full capability wallet, graphical user interface wallet, really nice wallet. And so I had a bunch of ZenCash built up, and I had some of it in transparent addresses. Well, I sent a bunch of ZENcash through multiple transactions to a shielded address. And then from that shielded address, I sent it to my new ledger hardware address. So anybody that looks at the blockchain to say, hey, there's this ledger hardware address that has cryptocurrency in it, where does it come from? They can't tell. They can't tell where it came from at all because it was shielded and then de-shielded. So even by just having that shielding process and knowing how to do it, okay, well, that does take a little bit of knowledge, you can really get privacy. However, what we're hoping to get to is the point, and if you look at ZCash, you'll see their sapling upgrade later this year. And ZCash, I really love that they open source all their technology and are intending to do so, because we're able to pull improvements from Bitcoin Core, we're able to pull improvements from ZCash into ZENcash, and then we're able to add our own internal technology as well. So it really is a wonderful situation to be in. Later on this year, shielded transactions and other elements of the improvement should basically, you should be able to do shielded transactions on your phone. Send and receive shielded transactions.
Okay, this is a very good point, because I was going to say, from my research, because I haven't used it, I haven't done the shield transaction, but from my research, it showed that it's a little bit complicated or time consuming, I should say. And with ZCash, you actually have the option to have the private transaction, the private address. And from one research or statistic, it was showing that something like 5% of the coins are being held in these Z addresses, the private addresses. In reality, most of the people at this point are still trading these coins, or even when they're investing in them, they are buying them from public exchanges. And they have this issue of having, all the record. Most of those exchanges are being regulated. There is a full record of transactions and everything. So the question really is, what is the use case for a privacy coin today, when in fact, probably more than 90% of the times, you would be buying that coin in a public way, in a public transaction?
Right, and so the use case is to help fund ZCash, to help fund ZENcash, and to look forward to when it's going to be private by default and much more easily usable. So that's part of it. But you make a good point that if people are, just because they're buying and transacting with ZCash or ZENcash or any of the other ZK snark based cryptocurrencies out there, the default way is not shielded. It's not private. It's not private. You have to do a little bit of work to make it private. So later on this year, the default way, we should be able to switch it to being private. And it takes work to integrate shielded transactions onto exchanges with business partners, into other things like that. And so by having them as transparent now, it gives us the time to enable all the shielded type things. However, there's some really big advantages to downloading a full wallet onto your computer and using shielded transactions, because not only can you do anonymous, you can do public, but you can do private messages. So private would be you and me sending transactions and nobody else knows that we are. But we can also do anonymous transactions. Say you wanted to get anonymous information and have people pay you anonymously. You could post a ZENcash shielded address on your website and say, hey, send me tips using ZENcash. And then people could send you money, and people could also send you messages, and you would have no idea who it's coming from. Because one of the really neat things about shielded transactions, in addition to sending cryptocurrency in a private or anonymous way, there's also a 512-byte message field. So every time a shielded transaction is sent, a 512-character message can be sent also in the same exact secure way. So as long as you're running a ZENcash wallet, and we have beautiful wallets that are in production, and your wallet can reach a ZENcash node, we have lots of nodes all over the world, then you can send private or anonymous cryptocurrency or messages.
Yes, that's another unique feature, or maybe not necessarily only unique to ZENcash, but one of the features that kind of sets you apart from the other privacy coins, because you have decentralized publishing, basically, in a way, isn't it?
Right. Well, you can send
a few different features, actually. It's Zen Chat, Zen Pub, Zen Hide. Let's go through these quickly.
Let's do it. So what I was just alluding to was Zen Chat, so the ability to talk. And so we actually have a dedicated chat application where you can get a few different people in a room together and chat. It's a slow chat because the messages are sent on the blockchain, and the average blockchain time is, the block time is about 2.5 minutes. But it's very secure. You can send messages, and in that message, you can also include a URL. So if somebody publishes something on an anonymous publishing system, and there are people that are working on anonymous publishing systems out there, Filecoin, IPFS is Filecoin, MadeSafe, and the company here in Atlanta, Storage. If you send a URL to something that has been published anonymously, this creates an anonymous or private messaging layer, because what good does it do to publish something anonymously if nobody knows it's there? So you could create basically your own channel, your own publishing channel on ZENcash, and then when something else is published, you can alert people that it's been published. And then then we can start integrating that tighter and tighter. So that's one of those roadmap things that we're looking at doing. That's why we talk about private and anonymous publishing, is because that message field can point to a URL of something that's been published anonymous. And then we'll integrate that tighter as those other anonymous publishing projects get their technology more mainstream as well.
Right. Now, there is a rumor going around that we will be seeing some tough regulations in the Eurozone, especially, where there is a rumor about a law coming through that will basically allow everyone to control the data that is being recorded about them online. And I'm seeing that as an obstacle to a lot of these type of services, where you have the data recorded on a blockchain pretty much forever, and without having the ability to take it out, take it down and remove it from there. Do you think this could be an issue in a way? Is there anything are you aware of this, in fact, or am I speculating here on rumors?
I've heard something like that. Certainly the right to forget is an important privacy right. And for organizations that are regulated, that have to meet all the requirements, if they want to stay in business, they certainly have to meet all the regulations. And with cryptocurrencies, that's an interesting thing, because cryptocurrencies move so fast in the technical capabilities that in many cases regulators really aren't able to keep up with them. And there are, of course, you're a trader, so you see that you're a cryptocurrency trader. So you see that going between state currencies and cryptocurrencies, there's the exchanges that you use. And those are a point of regulation, because those exchanges need to stay within compliance of all the local cryptocurrencies. So what our intention at ZENcash to do is to continue to develop and enable and make available technologies that allow for public, private, and anonymous transactions, messaging, and publishing, and then additional services above and beyond that. If the countries decide to make regulations more and more oppressive, then in some cases, maybe ZENcash wouldn't technically be allowed to operate in that country. My feeling, and now, my feeling is important now. My feelings won't be as important a year or two from now, when we put in all the community governance and all the decisions start getting made by people voting in the community. So what we're doing with the ZENcash team is we're building out a very usable technology, and it takes a few years to build that out. And then after that's built out, we're going to turn it over to the community to run. I'm going to step away. I will not be involved. So somebody could come tell me, you know, hey, you need to change this to make sure it's in compliance with regulations. I'd be like, I turned it over to the community. I don't have anything to do with it anymore. So as you can see, by a community-run cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and like a few other things, it's very difficult to regulate something like that. And then people need to make an individual choice of whether they're using a technology that is not within regulation or not. And if you look at the illegal drug usage here in America, which is technically illegal, you know, people make those choices every day.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Now we have a lot of people here waiting to talk about ASIC chips and mining and stuff like that. So let me go to a couple of the questions. We have Zekipolis asking, Bitmain just announced ASICs for Equihash. Will ZENcash fork to keep GPU miners? What is your take on Equihash? Is it something that you are looking into? CryptoZ is asking, what is ZENcash what will it do about the new announcement for the new Ant miner Z9 Mini with 10K? So you know, I'm not even that familiar with the mining because it's not really my.
I knew you were going to be asking me wide open questions, so I prepared. I got a good night's sleep and I did some studying this morning. So let me tell you about the Ant miner. All right. So if you're doing Zcash or Zclassic or ZENcash mining with a GPU miner and you got an NVIDIA card and say you got 6 of them set up and it's pulling about 1,000 watts, you're going to get about 3,000 solutions per second, which is pretty darn good. That's a nice profitable way of mining. 3,000 solutions per second, 1,000 watts. Bitmain just announced is the Z3, which is 10,000 solutions per second, 300 watts. Means it's about 12 times as most effective for electrical. So that means that for mining, the Z3 is going to be much more effective than GPU mining. Now, I don't know if it's an ASIC miner or if it's a purpose-built miner like an FPGA with external memory. Doesn't matter. It's a purpose-built miner that people are going to be able to buy and put in place. So that means there's going to be a lot more hash power added to the Equihash mining pool networks. And you saw what happened with, well, I don't know if you saw, but it happened with Dash when the X11 miner, the D3 came out from Bitmain. What I have talked to people about in the past regarding this is there is a concern among the community, and you saw Monero recently fork their algorithm because of the purpose-built miner that came out. So I want to more clearly define what the issue is, because the issue that people raise is that big companies are going to take control of the cryptocurrency, and it's a big scary thing. Let's define the risk more carefully, actually. So what we're looking to do is reduce risk, and let's define the risk. And the risk is, okay, a big company that is the only company that has this purpose-built mining capability has the ability to have a majority of the hash power on the network so that they can fork the cryptocurrency to some other version or some other rules. Okay, that's one risk. Forking based upon having a lot of hash power if Bitmain produces hundreds of thousands of these things and runs them internally. Now, if they produce hundreds of thousands of these
questions, I think here people are asking.
Okay, I research this stuff. I think about it all the time. So if Bitmain takes control of all the hash power of ZENcash, are they going to make it a worthless cryptocurrency, or are they going to try to put things inserted into it that are to their benefit? They might. We can deal with that when that happens. We don't have to decide ahead of time that that's what's happening. And we can track how that's happening by seeing what hash power is going to what mining pools. If it turns out that the internal Bitmain mining pool has, I don't know, 60% of the hash power, that's an issue we'll have to deal with. But that's not what the issue is right now. So that's one element of risk. The second element of risk comes to voting. So if a company like Bitmain gains a majority or a very large amount of ZENcash, and when we put our voting into play, they start to use that large quantity of ZENcash to vote for things that they want, that's another way of them gaining control. Okay, so
Yeah.
those are the two defined risk areas that we're talking about with a purpose-built miner from Bitmain. So how do we address that issue? Now, there is another issue that's brought up that says, okay, well, mining, if there's a purpose-built miner, then it's all going to become centralized mining, and maybe 3 or 4 companies are going to maintain all the mining control. Well, that might happen, and it's sort of happening with Bitcoin, but that's just because the purpose-built miners for Bitcoin are like 1,000 times as efficient as a GPU miner. This purpose-built miner from Bitmain is about 12 times as efficient. And a mining operation has lots of different costs. I know because I run multiple mining operations. I have more than 600 miners at my operation. And the costs are acquisition of equipment, electricity, rent, insurance, and payroll. So, and then if you have investors that invest in your company, then you have to pay the investors a certain amount of your profits as well. So big miners aren't necessarily, super profitable, as it were. Okay, so these are the two defined risk areas that we have to think about and address as ZENcash. Now, is the best way to address those two defined risk areas to fork the algorithm into something that Equihash miner that Bitmain created can't mine? Well, I don't know that that's the best way to do it. Maybe the best way to do it is to encourage Bitmain to sell a bunch of those so that mining continues to remain distributed. Maybe there's going to be other cryptocurrency hardware companies that copy the Bitmain miner, and all of a sudden we have 3 or 4 or 5 different cryptocurrency hardware companies that are selling them to whoever they want, and that becomes distributed. There's other ways to do it as well. Part of that is through governance, and part of it is through, anyway, there's a bunch of different ways to address the problem. But the knee-jerk reaction isn't to change the algorithm, because changing the algorithm is risky in itself because it changes the code. And then the second thing is Bitmain might have created that miner in a way that it can adapt to algorithms. If it is the type of miner that I think it is, which is a field programmable gate array, which is a reprogrammable ASIC with external memory, that means if we do an algorithm change, Bitmain can do an upgrade to the miner to change it to match the algorithm. So cryptocurrencies that have mining algorithms need to come to terms that there is going to be purpose-built hardware at some point in the future. Maybe right now, like just happened, maybe 6 months, 2 years, 3 years in the future. And changing the algorithm all the time is not going to prevent purpose-built mining hardware that's efficient from being built. So I've probably gone on too long for that.
No, I'm pretty sure people needed all of that deliberation, because I'm seeing even more comments. I mean, CryptoZ is saying that the new miner is in fact an ASIC miner, and he's saying, rest in peace, GPU mining. Is that what's happening?
Well, GPU mining is certainly going to be a lot less efficient. And there's an Ethereum miner that's going to be shipping from Bitmain in July and August. So there are different ways to address it. And it may turn out that changing the mining algorithm is the best way to address it. But those people who design ASICs and design mining hardware, they're pretty darn smart. And developers and ASIC and FPGA designers, they often don't talk about what their capabilities are. Equihash was supposed to be not GPU mineable when it first came out. I don't know if you remember that, but Equihash was supposed to be designed to use enough memory that it couldn't be GPU mined. And then with a month of it coming out, GPU mining algorithms were all over the place. So we could have said, a year and a half ago, rest in peace CPU mining, and many people did because GPU miners were written. So we're just going to the next stage. So there's defined risk. We have to figure out a way to address the risk. There is no emergency. There's no knee-jerk reaction needed. A lot of the GPU miners are going to be unhappy because they've invested in GPU mining equipment. Everybody that invests in mining should know that this is a risky thing to do. That's why you can get your miner paid back in 3 to 6 months. That's a 200 to 300% annual return on investment. If you expect to be able to just be handed a 200 to 300% annual return on investment, and people aren't going to come in and try to compete with that, you're living in a different business world than most people live in.
Okay, so what would you reply to this comment? Well, it doesn't sound good so far. Miguel is saying people were supporting, miners supported Zen. This is from Zeki Police, and now Zen doesn't support miners. What would you reply to that?
It's very easy to say that Zen's not supporting miners, because I have not right now said we're going to fork. I don't need to make that choice now. The team doesn't need to make that choice now. Nobody needs to make that choice right now. We can define the risk. We can talk about how to address the risk, and we can figure out if the risk situations are actually happening, and then we can figure out the best way to address the risk. Yeah, okay.
You're kind of leaving the door open to whatever could happen, which would be just your response to whatever is necessary in order to keep the network and the project going and being more successful. So,
well, yeah, that's the most important point, to focus on the success of the project. If we don't focus on the success of the project and the project goes into a cryptocurrency death spiral, then we can all just hang up our hats and go home. I guess miners would be unhappy then too, because it would be unprofitable to mine because there's no project around. So there's a lot of different considerations and a lot of different things to take into account about GPU and ASIC mining.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for that. We're not going to continue on that topic. Let's move on to something else. Let me quickly. I'm going to ask you about the wallets. People were asking, where can you store ZENcash? I know that you're on Ledger already, so that is quite an achievement. I think it's quite a recent thing as well.
It's recent that we're on Ledger, yes. We have 2 mobile wallets that are great options. We have a Zen wallet on Android, and we're on Coinomi. Coinomi is a great multi-coin wallet. It's on the iPhone.
I'm using it.
Yeah, and we're also integrated on Changely. So you can trade ZENcash between different cryptocurrencies on the Coinomi wallet using Changely right now. So that's a great place to have it.
Yes, Coinomi basically is an Android-only wallet, so you can.
No, it's on iOS. It's on iOS. Yeah.
Is it already on iOS? All right. So but it is a mobile wallet. It is it's still not available on your desktop, but you can have it on your mobile and you can store something like, I don't know, 50, 60 coins. It's a big number of coins, a big variety. This is where I was holding my Z Classic as well, and Zen. When I have Zen, I'm trading it, so I'm always buying, selling, and when I don't really have an active trade going on, I move the coins to Coinomi because this is how it's easy. They're available to me, so that if I'm on the go and I need to trade something, I can quickly send it from Coinomi to the exchange and everything. So that is great. Any other wallets that you are in the process of developing, or something that is coming that we should know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have had both a lightweight desktop wallet for Mac, Linux, and PC. That's the HORIZEN wallet. Very nice lightweight wallet, works well. Right now it's for transparent addresses only. Going to be adding at some point the ability for shielded addresses. Then we have a beautiful graphical user interface wallet called the Swing wallet, again for Mac and PC and Linux, and that allows the full set of capabilities, transparent, shielded, and messaging on the wallet. And then we have a few new wallets that have been in development for about 5 months. We're calling them the flagship wallets, and we'll be showing those at the Consensus show in New York City. ZENcash will have a booth there. I'll be there. We'll talk to a number of different people there. That's where we launched last year, or announced our launch, and launched the week later. So we're going to have a few things to show there. Okay,
well, that's great. And also, you have all of the releases on your GitHub as well, and people can grab the links and developers and everything. So,
we do. And I'm going to add something onto that, OJ. So we have a very active Discord with support for the different wallets in it. However, we also have a help desk, a 24/7 follow the sun help desk. If you need help on your wallet, you can go to Discord and ask, certainly. We have a forum. Forum could be a little bit more active, but you could also send an email. If you need help with ZENcash, you send an email to support@zencash.com. We have a ticketing system. We have people that, that we pay in ZENcash to help people that open tickets on our support desk. So cryptocurrency is pretty tricky. And sometimes you just have a question, and sometimes you probably have felt this. When you're about to send a large amount of cryptocurrency using a wallet, you're like, is this really going to go? Am I going to lose it all? And so, you know, you want to make sure
it's always a tricky thing. Yeah, exactly. I never actually do large transactions. I learned my lesson from a big mistake I did with a, it was an ICO that I got involved, and then when I had to move the tokens, I had to move them all in one go. And I never really do that. I always send a small amount to test. And when everything is fine and I'm sure that the transaction is going through and the wallets are correct and stuff, this is when I'm sending the larger amount. But with this one, I had to send the whole lot and they got lost. And it took me almost a year to actually get it sorted, speaking to different developers and people. And finally, it was a simple error that I did, basically losing the wallet address that I sent them to, so I didn't know where to look for it. I found it, but it took me, maybe I should say 9 or 10 months, not a whole year, but quite some time. So that's always an important point to make. So basically the Discord is where people should be going for help, is it?
That's the best place. You can also open a ticket with support at zencash.com. Those are really the two best places. But we like to support people. That's one of the big things about ZENcash. Very usable wallets. We want people to use the cryptocurrency. And regarding shielded transactions, part of what we do with Supernodes is have them do challenges periodically, which creates a whole bunch of shielded transactions on the blockchain. So if I were to send you cryptocurrency, ZENcash, using a shielded transaction, it wouldn't be the only one that's sitting there. So there's two major events that happen for transactions. When it's mined, the cryptocurrency that's mined has to be sent to a shielded address before it can be sent to a transparent address. And then for ZENcash with secure nodes, we have a whole bunch of shielded transactions generated. So we create a base layer all around the world of people doing shielded transactions, so any 1 or 2 shielded transactions won't stand out.
And they will be easy to execute and fast as well.
Right, yeah. So now, if you're going to do a shielded transaction, I did a few recently. I have a pretty powerful computer. It can take about 30 to 45 seconds to create a single shielded transaction. That's the way zero-knowledge proofs work. They have a lot of computation on the front end of the computation. That way, people who read it and analyze it, they don't need to spend as much computation power. That was a choice that was made by the designers.
Okay, and so the Discord, that is definitely the place. I will post the link under the video. Currently, we don't have the links under the video, but as soon as I finish this, I will go in the description and I will add some links. So if you guys are watching this on being recorded, you will probably already see links in the description, so you can go there and pick some up. Also, I want to share my screen so I can show you your YouTube channel. So this, guys, is the ZENcash YouTube channel. You mentioned that you're having a regular webinar, is it?
We do. We have an update every 2 weeks where we provide all the updates. And then at the end, we have a live question and answer session. And Rob and I, or whoever else is appropriate to answer the question, answers the question. So we really like to be engaged with the community. And having said that, we look at ourselves as spokespeople for the community. Now, just because I say that for mining and having ASIC miners come out and we have to define the risk, that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. we have a whole community, and many people in the community have different opinions, and they express them. And a lot of people come at it from different angles. Some people just want it to work. Some people want to make sure they get paid for mining. Some people want to make sure they get paid for secure nodes. Some people want to make sure they get paid for doing development. And everybody, at least I hope everybody, wants to make sure that ZENcash is going to be around for a long time. Now, I would say that the people that are running secure nodes are maybe a little bit more bought into the ZENcash long term. Miners can switch pretty quickly between cryptocurrencies. And I'm sure that right now I have a bunch of Twitter threats that people are going to switch away from ZENcash in a hurry if I don't say the right things. And that in itself,
some of the people here who are commenting that they're unhappy about the fact that GPU mining will not be as profitable now for ZENcash, and they might be moving to other coins. Is that what's going on?
ZENcash GPU miners. And you know, ZENcash, Zcash, I have miners that are optimized for this type of thing. So yeah, I'm unhappy about it too, especially Ethereum's going to be on what's going to be profitable to mine with GPU miners. I don't know. We might need to change them to be AI computing beds for hire, or hope that there's going to be a lot of new cryptocurrencies that are GPU mineable that come out. So yeah, there's contention and unhappiness that seems to proliferate in the cryptocurrency community for whatever anybody does. And I learned this when we started. When we started, you saw the pump on Z Classic before ZENcash launched. There was a lot of unrealistic information that was being put out in different trading groups about what was actually going to happen, and a lot of expectations that were set. And we got to deal with those unhappy people that had false expectations set for the 6 months after ZENcash would launch. People would come into the Slack and just give us a hard time, say, this isn't true. What are you going to do to get the price up? And so we've dealt with that for, you know, a year now, ongoing. And what we've learned is that there's always people complaining about something. And if a lot of people start complaining about something, okay, we probably need to look at addressing it. But I think most people that are part of the community want the cryptocurrency to be around for the long haul, see what we're doing to improve it. In a lot of cases, there's a silent majority and a very vocal minority. So I don't know what the right answer is in any case, but I do know that whatever we do on marketing, business development, technology, and other things like that, there's plenty of people that are very vocal about telling us what we're doing wrong. I think many cryptocurrency communities are like that, actually.
Yes, it's true. And it's a very good point that you're saying that there's always people who complain, and you will never be able to please everybody. The important thing is that the focus has to stay with what is better for the project, rather than trying to please everyone in the community. But it is also good to keep in touch with your community and to be aware of what your supporters are looking for or wanting from you. And I'm sure you do that via the different channels that you have.
We do, absolutely. So Discord, Telegram, Twitter, our blog post, our live stream, interviews like this that give people the opportunity to ask hard questions and for us to respond in more than a 1 or 2 sentence response, which is difficult to do sometimes. And people like to ingest information. Some people prefer video. Some people prefer words. So we try to get the information out on as many different channels as possible.
Okay, great. Well, again, the links will be in the description below the video, guys, for you when you watch this on repeat. I will add them after the video. And before we finish, because we've been chatting for quite some time, I don't want to take too much of your time, but let's talk a little bit about what is coming in terms of, I know what is on your roadmap, it is on the website, but is there anything that you can announce or that you can share, if not necessarily announce, about future partnerships or future development that will actually catapult ZENcash higher? Because I don't know if you agree with me, but I feel that ZENcash is not yet big enough. It is, to me, it looks like it's still undervalued, and there's still more space to grow. And in terms of immediate growth, like what is going to happen in the next 6 months or something like that? Anything that you can tell us?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things we hear about a lot is getting on different exchanges so people have the opportunity to buy it. Now, I think a lot of that is people that already have ZENcash want us to be added to more exchanges just so the price goes up. We're not focused on having just the price go up because we're in it for the long term. We like to have ZENcash at a nice price so that the people that we pay from the community funds, get value for their ZENcash. So having said that, our business development is actively working to get us many more partnerships on exchanges, little exchanges, big exchanges, specialty exchanges, you name it, we've got those in progress. Things take time. More wallets, so more hardware wallets, more specialty wallets, more things like Changely, but there's other services like Changely out there that we have the opportunity to get on. Now, if you think about the cryptocurrency ecosystem that I talked about, saying, okay, we have a privacy cryptocurrency where people can use it in a private way and they can use it right now. What are the types of online services where people might want to maintain privacy? So think about those types of services, and you can bet we're talking to those types of services and discussing partnerships. So those are all different things, and I'm not going to say specific things because until a deal is signed and ready to be announced, if we announce it, that puts us in a bad negotiating position and would either make us have to pay more community funds for the deal to happen or would make the deal disappear already. And with all these things, we sign non-disclosure agreements anyway, and we don't want to be in violation of those. So as much as I'd like to tell you all the different deals, I will hint and tell you that we're actively working. We have a very strong business development team. We have many different partnerships in progress, and you'll see a number of big ones coming out in the next 6 months.
Well, this is very important because that will basically create a practical user case for the coin, for the currency. And I know that many people who are even just investing, kind of holding longer term, they really want to know that the project is going in the right direction and that you're really actively working. This is why I was asking the question, because we've seen some projects that start very strong and with a lot of optimism into what they will do and how they will create, and innovate. And at some point, the project kind of goes quiet and we don't really see much development or activity. And then, of course, the price also goes down. And with people who invest in cryptocurrencies, medium term or even longer term, they need to know that this project is going somewhere so that they know that it's worth holding on to their coins. Not everyone is a trader. Not everyone is selling, when they see a pump. Many people are happy to just buy and hold and wait for, I know actually a few people who like to buy and hold for 2 or 3 years, even though cryptocurrencies are still so new and risky, because you never know what regulations will come, what other things will change this whole crypto space, and things may be really different in 2 or 3 years' time. But let's face it, it's already been a few years. Many of the altcoins have been around for 3 or 4, some of them 5 years. So it's not unlikely to expect that in 2 or 3 years' time, this project should be in a much higher level than it is today. And this is why I was asking. So,
Jay, let me just jump on that. Because what most of those projects run into is a scaling issue. They hit 5 or 50 people and they have an issue scaling. We don't. We're set up in a positive feedback loop. We've already created our internal structure that we can scale. We have management, we have project management, and we have different areas of responsibility with managers. We can add people, can continue to add them. The only thing that's limiting how many people and how much we're doing is the amount of community funds that we get every month. So it's a positive feedback loop. So if we take those community funds, which right now I believe are about $600,000 USD equivalent per month, and use those to make the cryptocurrency better, then more people will buy it and the price goes up. Then we have more funds to spend every month. So we're actually set up to accelerate and grow. That's why we have updates every 2 weeks, because we got new things happening. Our team has probably about 50 people now. I could say, 6 months to a year from now, we'll probably be at 100 people that are actively doing things and are being compensated on a monthly basis with Zen that come out of the community funds. Oh yeah, you're going to see a lot of things happening with Zen. We're not just doing the ICO and then spending 2 years developing stuff and then come with a magical product out. We have our systems are working in the marketplace every day, and our people are active every day making ZENcash better. So you've seen a lot of things happen. You're gonna see even more things happen. And I hope one of the things that we've built up over time is a track record of success, saying that if we're going to do something, we do it. And having that track record of success and people trust that when you say you're gonna do something, you do it, that is value in itself as well.
Absolutely. This is actually very important, and it's great to finish the video with that. This is almost like a slogan, because whatever you said, you've delivered. And it's important to judge track record. This is how you actually can separate the projects that you can trust from those that are super risky. And of course, in the early days, everything is a risk. And by no means, we are not saying that it's a safe bet. It is, in fact, judging by what you've already done over the course of a year, I would say that ZENcash is definitely something that I have in my portfolio, and I can advise people to look into it more. Now, lastly, you mentioned ICOs. You didn't actually do an ICO, right? You started.
Yeah, we did not do an ICO. We did not do a pre-mine. We did a chain split off Z Classic. And then we started paying the organization out of the community funds, the 8.5% of the mining of the new mining reward. So we didn't have any money to start with.
So so basically, you just started mining it from the day of the fork, is it?
Right. So yeah, from the day of the fork, that's when the community funds started accumulating. There was no pre-mine, no ICO. And the people that were the Z Classic supporters got ZENcash in addition to Z Class when we did the chain split on launch day, just about a year ago. That's right. So there's no big pool of people, or there's no people that have 50 or 60% of the ZENcash that are just sitting on it. There's none of us out there that have that.
Okay, great. Well, I'm gonna end it with a sort of a not too serious question. Let's end it on a lighter note. Andy is asking, aren't you concerned that NatWest will get angry at you using their logo? There is NatWest is a bank in the UK, and I think Andy is.
Yeah, that is a concern. And if people have ideas about, because as we get bigger, NatWest has that logo and it's very similar. So we're going to run into that issue at some point where we're going to have to change our logo again, probably. I don't know. Some people say that we should change our name. We're doing good the way we are. And as long as we're doing good, we don't change things. But, if we see that we need to do something different, we will. Yes.
Is there a need to change your name? Do you feel that this is something that you would want to be dealing with, total rebranding?
Well, it was funny. I was talking with somebody. I did a YouTube interview with somebody from India last week, and he said a lot of people did not even want to look at ZENcash because Zen is religious, and they are either not religious, or they're of a different religious persuasion, or they were of Zen Buddhist, and they didn't like us using the name. So that might be holding us back in some places. I don't know. We always try to stay away from religion and politics and sex in discussion, just like polite company. But we inadvertently stumbled into one of those through the naming of ZENcash. So that might be a reason right there. I don't know.
All right. Well, so we are having here an exclusive. Very possibly we will be looking at a total rebranding of ZENcash at some point. Possibly.
That's right.
We don't know. But I feel that you have now a few reasons to actually go for it. And if it happens, you guys heard it here first. Okay, well, thank you very much, Rolf, for taking the time and for answering all of the questions. I hope, guys, that for you who are watching, we managed to cover all of your questions. I am going through the comments just to see if I probably missed something because there's quite a few comments and I can't really go through all of them right now, but I know that most of the questions were centered around the ASIC and the GPU mining and stuff like that. So hopefully we managed to get clarity here and answer everyone's questions. Now, thank you for being with me. Thank you guys for watching and staying until the end. If you like the video, give the thumbs up and share it with other people so that you can help spread the word. And are you up for doing a follow-up at some point, maybe 6 months down the line or something, and we can revise and see what's going on?
OJ, I'd love to do a follow-up with you about 6 months down the line. This was fun today.
Great. Thanks a lot, and take care. I'm going to probably speak to you very soon. Thank you, guys. I'll see you in my next video.
Thanks. Bye.